wakey. Hello, good morning, and many thanks indeed for joining us. Ready or not, here we come. You can't hide. I trust you had a lovely restorative night, and you woke it up well today for this, of course, Wednesday, where we have Global Today coming your way. It is the 12th of June 2024. We have a lot lined up for you today as far as the foreign policy is concerned, diplomacy, geopolitics, and security here in the country, the region, in Africa, the continent, and the entire world. Our panelists are already here in studio up and early. I'm joined this morning by Dr. Hassan Kanenja, who is a director at the Horn Institute of Strategic Studies. Also, we have with us Dr. Ken Obongi, who is a historian at the University of Nairobi. We have also with us Professor Peter Kagwanja, who is the CEO of Africa Policy Institute. Farah Malim joins us as well, who is an international affairs analyst and also member of Parliament, DEDAM. So we have a lot lined up for you today. Of course, we stand in solidarity with Malawi, which is in mourning right now, having lost their vice president and 9 other citizens there in a plane crash, a tragic event that is happening there. And we shall be also giving you details of this as well. We'll be giving you details on also the latest development with Somalia, who has just joined the United Nations Security Council, as it says. So what does it really portend, looking at Somalia at the UNSC, so to speak. Also, we shall be giving you a brief of what is happening in South Africa with the latest development. Of course, we know the elections which were there, and right now they're trying to shake into place to have a coalition government. So also we have that as well. The cost of war, the Red Sea, we know that also the pumping up of the crude oil has risen up by 47%. This is what is happening currently, and also we have that for you in our bulletin today. And Sudan, we have ICC, which is calling out Sudan right now on war crimes. We shall also give you the details from the ICC prosecutor as well this morning. So we have a lot lined up for you. But let's see what is fresh off the press today. And this is what you're waking up to on the front page of The Standard today. And it's a happy medium, so to speak, between Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday, of course, and the day before we saw the spokesperson of Uhuru Kenyatta, who came out decrying the fact that the government has not been remitting the remittances that actually is due for President Uhuru Kenyatta as far as the pension is concerned. Inside Ruto Uhuru surprise phone call is what is headlining the front page of The Standard today. Manikan, President William Ruto has formed a team to resolve the dispute raised by his predecessor a day after it was revealed money set aside for the retirement package had not been disbursed. Already, State House has held its first meeting to resolve the money wars, and talks were there. First of all, the president has constituted a team led by the head of public service. Phone conversation was followed by a visit by Uhuru's senior staff to State House. Ruto is said to have briefed the cabinet, saying the issues had been resolved. And also we have bites here from State House spokesman, that is Hussein Mohammed, saying, quote-unquote, President William Ruto has had a conversation with President Uhuru Kenyatta regarding concerns about facilitating the functioning of the retired president's office. And also Kanze Dena, Uhuru Kenyatta's spokesperson, she said, quote-unquote, the former State House comptroller, being Uhuru's authority to incur expenditure holder, met with his successor following the two leaders' phone conversation. And you can read the rest of the details on page 9 of The Standard today. On the sidebar, Treasury tax dilemma as IMF comes calling. Days to the reading of the budget and debate of the finance bill. The International Monetary Fund has loaded the documents, saying they will help raise more revenue, but Kenyans from all walks want MPs to amend contentious clauses before passing it. We have a story on page 6 and 7 of the publication today. 135.5% adjustment to Kenya's access quota should IMF board be satisfied with tax reforms, and 3.9 trillion shillings, the amount of money the country intends to spend in the next financial year. All that tucked away in the publication today. Also, get all the wiser as far as entrepreneurship is concerned. You have the Enterprise magazine inside the Standard. Looking at the teaser on top, appeal court deals intern teachers yet another blow. This is on page 2. Malawi mourns VP killed in crash on page 21, while page there. And Cooperative Bank pays 8.8 billion shillings dividends. Harambee gets point from elephants. That is the sports pages of the Standard today. Ruto Uhuru seeks to end Pax row. That is what we have on the front page of the Daily Nation. There's a dispute here. The retired president has accused the State House of frustrating him from accessing his benefits. Climb down. President William Ruto yesterday called his predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta, in a bid to stop the escalation of a standoff over the former president's budgetary allocation official office, staffing and security requirements after the phone call. Head of Public Service Felix Koskei was directed to set up a team to address the grievances. You have a story on page 4 of the Daily Nation this morning. The return of regional politics. This is on page 5. There's a fresh clamor for regional politics union, with influential players leading the initiative in a bid to boost their bargaining power ahead of the 2027 elections. And you have the faces spread here on the front page of the Daily Nation. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga, Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya, NA, that is the National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula, and Kilifi North MP Owen Bayer. He says cross leaders have put aside their differences for a united front. Pump prices set to rise. On new plan to raise levy, that is a fuel levy, that is, and this is bound to, of course, affect you. Motorists will be forced to dig deeper into their pockets to fuel their vehicles should lawmakers approve a proposal to increase the fuel levy from 18 to 25 shillings per litre. Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen wants the Finance and National Planning Committee to increase the tax by 7 shillings per litre. Excuse me. It was last reviewed in July 2016. Mr. Murkomen said expected revenue will amount to 115 billion shillings. You have a story on page 10 of the Daily Nation. Low medical oxygen supply blamed for increase in public hospital deaths, and more students apply to join private universities. That story is on page 32 of the Daily Nation today. Counties, 400 billion shillings. Mount Kenya big winner. Revelations, a slap in the face of Gachagua. Those claiming Mount Kenya shortchanged. All right, that is an eye-popping figure. Flying in the face of what they've been decrying that there should change. Division of revenue now receives the second largest share of the allocation, and that story you can follow it on page 4 and 5 of the Star today. Rigathi flies commercial to Mombasa Forum, as you can see him here. Down to earth, DP Rigathi Gachagua boards KQ commercial flights to the International Scientific Conference of the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya in Mombasa. You know what has been happening. All right, is this the economic? Oh, this is the first class, huh? Yeah, that's the first class there, right? So no choppers.
You can even go economy.
All right, so he's towing the line. This is a star for you. All right, the intrigues of politics, as you can see it here. Pictures are very telling. Also, varsity agency on the spot of a student's placement. This is on page 6 of the Star this morning. People Daily. Ruto reaches out to Uhuru in office fight. There's a ceasefire here after retired president's complaint about neglect of his status by the Kenya Kwanza administration. His successor places a call to him and sets up a team to address his grievances. You have a story on page 4 of the People Daily this morning, and also a bite there from the spokesperson. How counties will share 400 billion shillings revenue, and IRA revokes closure of direct line assurance, right, that is owned by SK Macharia. You can follow the story inside the publication today. NAT calls for quick crisis meeting over sacked intern teachers is another story that will interest you as well on page 3. Murkomen reveals plan to increase fuel levy by 39%. So you have an idea there that they declare the fact since 2016 it has not been increased. Revenue to generate 115 billion shillings annually, increased to be the latest hit for motorists. And you have a story also on page 2 of the publication today. That is the Business Daily. Why Kenya lowered appetite for IMF debt? Kenya has cut back on its planned borrowing from the International Monetary Fund by 7.2% to 465.4 billion shillings after partial repayment of the debut Eurobond that unnerved global investors. You can follow the story on page 2 of the Business Daily today. Egerton's medical training cost dwarfs top varsities. Egerton University has overtaken leading medical schools at the University of Nairobi, Kenyatta University and Moi University in the amount of tuition fees for Bachelor of Medicines and Bachelor of Surgery degree students. You can follow the story on page 4 of the Business Daily. Banks rising loan defaults on high interest rates, and this is on page 6. Coffee sector reforms boost prices but stall sales exports. You have a story on page 4 of the Business Daily this morning. In Uganda, UN experts are linking Uganda and Mwenda on M23 rebels. This is an accusation. UN authorized investigators claim that Uganda's military, the UPDF, directly and through its intelligence the Defense Intelligence and Security actively support M23 and Alliance Fleuve Congo, that is FC, rebels or rebel bands in the eastern DR Congo. The report also names veteran journalist Andrew Mwenda as an interlocutor in Kampala. You have a story on page 4 of the Daily Monitor. From house girl to speaker. You can read all about her story as well. Very inspiring. We started from the bottom. Now we are at the top. That will also be the mantra and the song for her as well. You can read the story on page 4 of the publication today. How detectives raided detained MPs' homes. You can see how they did it. Police outside the home of Luengo District Women Rep. That is Miss Sisi Namuju Dionisia at Kigo in Wakiso District yesterday. The story is on page 4 of the publication today. Also homes. You can read the rest of the details on page 18 and 23, all about property. In Tanzania, approved SGR fares draw mixed views. Some analysts say the government should ensure that bus operators remain in business and buses complement SGR services instead of the two modes of transport being engaged in cutthroat competition. This story is on page 2 of the publication today. Expectations, challenges as elections approach. Tanzania Constitution Forum has highlighted hopes and challenges following the adoption of 3 electoral laws ahead of this year's local government elections and the 2025 general election. You have a story on page 11 and 12 of the publication today. Budget 2024-2025, private hospitals want NHIF debts cleared. This is happening in Tanzania as well. Remember, we have a synchronized reading of the budget tomorrow in the East African region. This is what is happening in Rwanda. Rwanda civil society deploys over 300 observers for July elections. That is the story that you want to follow on page 3. Kagame calls for long-term political solutions to Gaza crisis. That is another story that you would want to follow as well. And you can see President Paul Kagame delivering his remarks at the high-level conference themed Call for Action. Urgent humanitarian response for Gaza in Dead Sea, Jordan on Tuesday. Kagame told participants that their powers and means cannot fail to prompt immediate action to bring an end to the terrible suffering of countless innocent civilians in Gaza. You have the story there in the publication today, and the latest as well is that Hamas has indicated that they are willing and open to a truce, and that is the latest development that we get as well. We shall give you the details much later in the course of the program. Genocide. Ibuka welcomes Nkunduwimwe's conviction, and you can follow the story on page 2, how youth-led innovations can boost agriculture. And Nduva's entry at her Arusha office. The new boss at EAC has her job cut out. She says her focus is integration, but she has to clear myriad trade and diplomatic barriers. You have the story on page 4 and 5 of the publication today. Cash crisis, trade wars, insecurity, IC relations. That is what is topping her agenda there. And you can read the rest of the story on page 4 and 5 of the East African. Image boost for Mogadishu. Mogadishu gets a seat at the UN Security Council table, from whence its crippling sanctions have come. And you can follow the story on page 3. And you have UNOC delaying oil imports. Uganda big day pushed back again at state-owned farm signs as state-owned farm sign deals with more than 80 companies. You have a story on page 2 of East African. And the China Daily is here, fostering of world-class farms trust. She calls for improving modern corporate system with distinctive Chinese features. That is the story you want to follow in the China Daily this morning. Also, nation's new astronauts include one each from Hong Kong and Macau. That story also inside the publication as well. I shall show you what we have on the editorial cartoons, also the international publication, The Economist, The Newsweek, The Week UK, The Week also USA, and the rest of the publications as well here on Morning Prime Global today. But for now, let's buckle down to some story, and then we shall also unveil the faces and hear the voices as well of our panelists here this morning. And remember, you get to drive a show with me as well. You can hit us on X at KTN News is our X handle. At Dibalanea is my X handle as well. Now, President William Ruto has personally taken over retired President Uhuru Kenyatta's concerns regarding disbursement of retirement packs allocated to his office. President Ruto held talks with his predecessor and constituted a team led by Head of Public Service Felix Koskei to address the grievances raised by the former president's office. KTN senior political affairs reporter Daniel Kariuki opens our coverage with that story.
Monday, former President Uhuru Kenyatta was guns blazing, accusing his successor, President William Ruto's government, of frustrating him by denying him benefits due to him under the Presidential Retirement Act. Tuesday, President William Ruto took up the issue and held a phone conversation with the retired president. State House spokesperson Hussein Mohammed on his X account saying, and I quote, "This morning, President William Ruto had a conversation with his predecessor in office, the fourth president, President Uhuru Kenyatta, regarding concerns about facilitating the functioning of the retired president's office." Hussein Mohammed further said, President Ruto has consequently constituted a team led by the head of public service to immediately address all the issues raised, including the location of the retired president's office and the attendant staff establishment. End of quote. The retired president, through his spokesperson, Kanze Dena, had listed a litany of grievances, including denial of official office space. Kanze said Kenyatta had been denied access to the budgetary allocation released to the State House Controller for disbursement to him, forcing the former president to dig deep into his pocket to finance the operations at his office.
The financial year 2023-2024 that ends in a few weeks, the budget allocation for this office was 503 million shillings. The year is ending without the office having any access to this allocation.
But government spokesperson Isaac Mwaura Monday dismissed Kanze's allegations, maintaining that government was keen on the Presidential Retirement Benefits Act that accords a retired president a set of benefits, including a monthly pension, entertainment allowance, house allowance, suitable office space, full medical and hospital cover, amongst others. However, the latest happenings, including Ruto's phone call to former president, has left questions. If indeed the government was implementing the act, and if so, why was a constituted team appointed to look into the same? And between former president's office and the government, led by spokesperson Isaac Mwaura, who was telling the truth? Daniel Kariuki, KTN News.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has caused a social media storm after he flew to Mombasa aboard a Kenya Airways commercial flight. It dovetails right into what is fast becoming known as the villager movement, which is gaining popularity among supporters of the Deputy President, especially on social media. The villager movement has gained currency after National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah referred to Gachagua's push for regional unity as seeking attention from the village. Clement Masombo has more.
As political temperatures continue to rise in the country, cracks in the ruling party UDA have also continued to widen. Two camps have now emerged, one supporting Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua in his quest for Mount Kenya regional unity and one man, one vote, 1 shilling revenue sharing formula, and the other camp outrightly opposed to the second in command. The camp opposed to Gachagua is led by President William Ruto and other senior leaders of the Kenya Kwanza coalition.
Once the sub-counties are united, you unite the county. When we have in this region, our 11 counties are united, then we unite the Mount Kenya region.
Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga and a few other leaders have come in the defense of Gachagua. According to Kahiga, Gachagua deserves all the respect as the deputy president. He is angered by a crop of young leaders who seem to have a bone to pick with the embattled DP.
Mheshimiwa Murkomen, kuna vijana mnazungusha kila weekend na huwe helikopter. Mnawapatia pesa wazunguke hii Kenya mzima. Mkiwaambia nyinyi mnajaribu hivi wakiongozwa na Oscar Sudi.
What has, however, caught the attention of Kenyans on social media and even led to a new political slogan was the sentiments from the majority leader in the National Assembly, Kimani Ichung'wah, referring to DP Gachagwa's push for regional unity as seeking attention from the village.
There is a famous saying, which I could quote, that says you can't build a kingdom with someone who still wants the attention from the village.
All politics is local. All politics is local. Listen to the ground.
The new slogan, which has been trending online, I am a villager, was orchestrated by the supporters of DP Gachagua in response to Ichung'wah's remarks. Other leaders from the region too have come out in support of the DP.
Before we catapult our vice president to the national unity, he must cultivate the national unity. Tukicha kubaliana anaenda at the national stage, pia hapo akiwa na rais wanapigania nafasi ya umoja ya Wakenya.
Your Excellency naibu wa rais, wacha ukuwe villager, huko ndiko umezaliwa na huko ndiko umetoka, na tunaanzia kutafuta kura kutoka kwa village.
Mimi mkiniona huko nikipiga nduru, nikipiga kelele, mimi natetea mtoto wetu.
Pundits have likened the formation of the villager movement to the hustlers movement, which President William Ruto used to win the hearts of millions of Kenyans.
It has gained ground within a very short period, talking of a week and a few days, and it has been trending. Within the first one day, the issue arose of a villager. The social media took it up.
Supporters of Gachagua have also raised questions over alleged denial of DP of military choppers, which he has been using until recently. The DP has now been seen flying using private choppers, and on Tuesday, he was spotted boarding a Kenya Airways flight to Mombasa, where he is set to open the scientific conference of the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya. But what message could the man who calls himself the son of Mau Mau be sending to his boss?
In my own interpretation, I could be wrong, but I believe I'm right. He is simply saying, I've been denied my usual means of reaching a place in an easy way, the military aircraft, which he started using immediately they were sworn in.
The latest move by the DP comes weeks after President William Ruto allegedly used a chartered flight to the US, which is reported to have cost taxpayers 200 million shillings. The president is on record refuting the claims, saying he only spent 10 million shillings. Clement Masombo, KTN News, Nyeri County.
All right, before we go further, we just want to hear from our panelists this morning. As I mentioned, we are holding court this morning with Dr. Hassan Kanenje, Director of the Horn Institute of Strategic Studies. Also, we have Professor Peter Kagwanja, the CEO of Africa Policy Institute. We have with us Ken Ombongi as well, who's a historian also, and the head of department, University of Nairobi, we have history and archaeology. And also we do have with us Farah Malim, who is a member of parliament, Dadaab, and also an international affairs analyst as well. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Yeah, good to see you. Thank you for joining us this morning. I just wanted to get introductory remarks from you as well, just briefly to comment some of the stories that we've had so far and the latest development that we see, the spat between Uhuru Kenyatta and, should I call it a spat, or maybe the differences that is occurring right now? It's not really a spat, so to speak, just to use the right choice of word. Or words, I should say. Dr. Hassan Kanyenje, let's just begin with you first of all.
Yes, good morning, Dibal, and Kenyans who are watching. Yeah, it's been an interesting couple of weeks. Looks like the more things change, the more they remain the same. So I think we've been here before, and we're likely to be here again, considering, I think, the nature of our politics. I think one of the things that is concerning is just the constant, I think, fights between whether the governors and the deputies, or sometimes, the State House and those who are surrounding, the deputy president. What we hope is that that kind of, friendly fire, does not affect the strategic agenda, that Kenya is trying to pursue, both in terms of trying to grow economy and enhance prosperity for its people, as well as enhance its role in the region and, on the continent. Because sometimes we get so distracted. Many people, foreigners, always wonder how obsessed we are with actually our very village politics in Kenya generally. And it looks like that is the only thing, we sing, we do, we eat politics. And I think there is a need for us to move to sometimes more substantive issues and things that actually affect Kenyans. Now, there's been an issue since yesterday following the deputy president's, boarding of a commercial flight. Well, if you ask me, I didn't see any big deal with that, unless, I'm looking at it from political lens. If I were to play devil's advocate to an average Kenyan, that is a good demonstration of, some of the measures that you need to take to save on cost. But also, there are many, many countries out there whose leaders actually take, commercial airlines, just not, to prevent wastage. But of course, within the context of ongoing politics, of course, that is going to be significant. But from where I stand, I also do not believe that the vice president or deputy president, didn't have anyone to carry his back or anything like that. Perhaps he just wanted to do that, himself. It's not because it is a punishment that he has to carry it. He, even before he became deputy, I'm sure he has enough stature, to be able to have someone to do that.
Or he wanted just to become melodramatic about it, right?
Yeah,
so that at least
so
for the cameras,
really
this is
a big deal with it. To be honest with you, as long if I were vice president of this country or deputy president, I wouldn't mind carrying my bag, as long as the place is safe.
All right, thank you. Peter Kagwanja, have you joined the village movement?
Yes. Let me declare here.
You're in the village movement?
Now that I am a villager, and my village is Kenya. Right? That's my village. Kenya is my village because I have traveled to at least 107 countries in the world. What can Kenya be to me other than my village where I come to? I don't normally, I have a home in the village. I have a home in Nairobi. I have a home in Kajiado. And I have a home, I've not yet disbanded my home in Pretoria. So it depends on how we want to define the village, depending on what level you are flying. All planes fly at different heights. There are those that go for 10,000 meters, and others cruise up to 10,000 feet. So others go for 39,000 feet. So I say that on a very serious note because what we are witnessing now is the end of our experiment with non-ethnic politics that was signified by the rise of the Hasra movement. And the Hasra movement ushered a kind of a moment of class politics. And to an extent, they kind of overwhelmed and eclipsed the ethnic politics that had characterized our previous politics. Now, what we begin to see is the resurgence of what they're calling regional politics, but I think I would rather see it as ethnic populism across the board. It's ethnic populism. And ethnic populism is an us versus them kind of idiom. And an us versus them idiom can only fragment the nation, can only fragment the elite. And I think the issue, the village movement had given it impetus because of the position of the Mount Kenya community within the larger Kenyan community. Today, if you are looking at the most powerful nation, or the nation in the Kenyan nation, is Mount Kenya, with 9 cabinet ministers and a deputy president out of 22 cabinet staff. And I'm not talking about the PSAs and the ambassadors, our ambassador to China, our ambassador to India, deputy ambassador to China, and all of this, you can see where the community is in terms of positioning in this government. Yet, when you get the grievance coming from there, then we have issues here. Then this is not exclusively Mount Kenya. The village movement is actually national now, because you have the Tawe movement in Western Kenya. We have the resurgence of the coastal sensibilities that we are this, and huge anti-Somali sentiments, which you find in social media, very crude and raw, attack on other communities and so on. And I think as Kenyans, we need to stop this. Somebody needs to come to their senses that there is no way your community can win an election alone. This is what we learned from the 1997 election, when every community produced its own leader, including the Mijikenda. They have Chibule Wachuma and others. Yes, they had the Taita. They had their own.
Except the Somalis.
We've been waiting for you.
We have been waiting for you. There's Dida. So there was Dida. No, Dida is from the Cushitic. Yes, he was there. So either way, what we are saying is we learned from 1997 that you cannot ride to State House using your village. Your village can never take you to State House. I emphasize, your village, however patriotic you are to it, can never take you to State House.
All right, let's hear from Ken Obunge. Your village cannot take you to State House.
Oh, well, that's interesting for Prof to say that
all politics is local.
All
politics is local. So is it flying in the face of what Kagwanja is telling us?
I'm more villager than anybody around this table. Born, bred, and educated within an area of a radius of half a kilometer from my mother's kitchen, from kindergarten to Form 6 in those our days. But I've come to appreciate with subsequent exposure that I've had, probably as traveled as Professor Kawanja, probably slightly more. And I've come to believe that politics or parochialism really don't take us very far. But when you look at this historically, Prof, and the rest of it, it's not out of the ordinary. We have developed a tendency, particularly in Kenya, that every time we face challenges, at our national level, especially with some of our leaders, then we take recourse to the small universes of family, village, clan, and community. It's actually not out of in tandem with what we have had in the political history of this country. And identity politics, as it were, the political scientists here, the two of them, is so much integral to the politics of the nation, in such a way that that is probably one of the greatest challenges that we face in becoming a nation.
All right, thank you. Let's hear from Farah Maalim.
Yeah, I like his analogy. I like Professor Kagwanja's, It all depends on, you see, you have different planes for different altitudes. You can't use a Cessna 402 to fly at 39,000 feet above sea level. Not even a Boeing can go to 60, but a B-1 can go to 60.
Yes.
The bomber B-1, massive things, The expectation is that anybody who's going to hold the highest office of the land must be the highest, design in terms of strategy, in terms of the airplane we're talking about. But if you try to get a Adonia or a beaver or what do you call this one, which I made in the Czech Republic lately? Whatever it is, you know,
Yes, yeah.
to fly at 60,000 or to fly at 40,000. And of course, it will come down to its own level. So I think in politics, if your validation was from very basic local thing, you'll always remain local.
Yeah.
But if your intellectual capacity was massive and national, I mean, take a look at somebody like Kibaki.
Yes.
There's a time he was accused of being the vice president for Odaya. And you know, he looked back and said, wait a minute. And the reason why he confined himself to Odaya is that he did not want to be seen to be competing with the president for popularity, in terms of popularity. And then later on when and he stayed. Remember there was that political tourism when Mwangale,
Elijah.
Late Elijah Mwangale did what he did. But the moment he got an opportunity, this is a man who, because of the loyalty to his own appointing authority those days, was dropped from a vice president and made a minister for health.
Yeah.
And everybody expected him to resign. He went and took up his place in the Ministry of Health and did some of the best things that ministry has ever witnessed during that time. He talked of Mugumo not being able to cut with a razor blade. But at the moment multipartyism was allowed,
He was the first to form.
he immediately bolted and said, okay, I'm going to now try my hand at being the president of the Republic of Kenya. And did very well, but he became second.
At cutting that Mugumo tree.
Yes. He became the number two. By the way, I was in Fort Kenya that time.
Yes.
With Jaramogi as our presidential candidate. Kibaki had beaten us. We were number three.
Yes.
You get my point. And he came from, you know, inconsequential at that time within the opposition politics, was seen as a conformist who would not have a chance. But he went out there and appealed to the people. This is a man, I have never seen him in any conversation when we were together in Parliament. He enjoyed his bottle sometimes in Parliament. And although I'm not anywhere near the bottle, but just to be able to be close to his own wisdom. I used to sit sometimes next to him and listen to that old sage. You'd never see him talking in a vernacular. Even if the other colleagues, the Kikuyus, were with him talking vernacular, he would reply in English or Swahili. So, you know, and you know, the man was picked from Makerere University by, is it Tom Mboya or Jaramogi who picked? Jaramogi. Both of them picked me. Because they saw that powerful potential at that young age.
It's brilliant.
At that young age of being barely 30, the man had the capacity, he had the quality, he had what it takes. So the problem every time you find somebody running to the village, the person doesn't have any ideas beyond the village. You get my point? And you don't blame him. I mean, capacity, everybody has got his own Peter's limit. You call it Peter's limit? Somebody can be a very good sergeant in the, what do you call, warrant of Sawan. But when you make him a captain, he'll have a problem. You know what I mean? He's cut for that. So in politics also, you have to see the kind of people that we're going to push for that ultimate position. Must be people who have that wide, very wide. I mean, from being fought by the president, from being seen as a man who was responsible for the Kamba, you know, church, you remember?
Yes.
From having that issue between the Kalenjins and the Kikuyus, ability of Ruto to work his way into the hearts and minds of all those people is essentially what you need to become. If you have to be a president of this country, you must be able to do things like that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And if you want to, if you're a heartbeat away from the presidency and you keep on saying local politics, where does that take you? And then you begin now directing the ire or the arc of your people against other communities.
Yes.
I don't think the issue of the Somali is something that's coming from the young, ordinary pedestrian Kikuyu in the streets. It's coming from up there. But do they care? Do Somalis care whether, you know, Gachagua talks about them or anybody talks about them? They live there, they own this country, just like you. The same way you come from Kakamega or Wanga, you know what I mean? I come from Garissa and Wajir. Unless you can prove to me that Garissa and Wajir are not part of Kenya, which I'll never accept, by the way. There's a time we wanted to secede. But this time, anyone who wants to secede from Kenya, those are the ones we are going to crush. You know. I'm serious. If you try to secede from this country, we will send you to hell. Yes. You see what I mean? This country is indivisible. Everybody will love it. It's our country. And nobody can try and divide this country.
But if history will bear us, you forget history.
Yes.
Of course, Somalia also was seeking to secede.
We were seeking. I mean, even as a young man going through college myself, I didn't see any future because Kenyatta came in there with his very village politics, serious village politics, kept us away from the center like hell.
So
everybody else, not
so
just...
where did you have this epiphany and the eureka moment?
No. And the good thing that happened is that they made a mistake and tried a coup in 1982. And everybody else was a coward. And then one of our own sons, which is part of our tradition, took 37, cooks and, that century guys and very ordinary guys from the headquarters there and went into VOA and blasted his way through.
So you're talking about the general?
Of course. Typical of the community, courage.
You have to float that. You trust. You've got to float it.
Hang on, let me tell you. It's after that, everybody began appreciating we have a country. And we have 43 or 44, those days, 42 communities, which is one. And we never looked back since then. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
I came into parliament myself in 1993 when we used to send one student to the public universities every year from the entire northeastern province. And today we have over 100,000 of our young men, boys and girls. We did not want to blame anybody. We worked our way through that. We struggled very hard. We tried to put up everything. You know what I mean? So don't blame.
So you defeated the village.
We defeated the village. We defeated the village. We went to the town. We went to the whatever you call it, urban. We went to the municipality. We're in the city now. You know what I mean? So we're in the country, not just the city. He's my friend. And he's my brother-in-law. I don't know if you know that.
No, I didn't know that.
You don't know that? Yeah.
Where's the link?
He's one of us now, you know.
He's adopted. Or he's spilling, some secrets here that, you need to take care.
No. I have my own nephews and nieces who are there in his house. So, children of my own sister.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So basically what I'm trying to say is that you can't take that village politics anywhere.
All right.
You destroy your people.
Indeed.
How do you listen? I have no problem with one man, one vote,
one shilling,
whatever
1 kilometer.
I have no problem. But let's use that from Independence Day and also apply it across the board. Across the board on national development. Let's find out how much has gone into every region in this country and say, let's balance.
Thank you.
You've got trillions of dollars in these things. You wait until the rest of them are brought to your level. Don't just talk about the CDF, you know what I mean? Which has got its own criteria.
But at least now we have the division of revenue. You get also the second largest scoop as well.
Well, because the criteria that was found, how many Somalis were there in Parliament in the 10th Parliament 2010 when we were building that criteria? Very few, you know what I mean? How many Northerners, how many, former NFD, Turkana and Masai and Samburu were there in Parliament to put this criteria together? We're a small minority. The country came together, the country decided this is going to be the criteria. We're going to take land expansion into consideration, we'll take population into consideration, we'll take infrastructure into consideration, you know what I mean? We'll take all that. So it's basically through that criteria that was created by the country itself, where we were a minority in that what you call discussions and deliberations, and that's what we came up with. So
fantastic.
Many years later, you come out
Let's
there.
leave it at that. Let's leave it at that because of time, and this is an interest as well that we have to cover that other stories as well. We want to cross border to Malawi, where Malawi's Vice President Saulo's Klaus Chilima and 9 others, including a former First Lady Chanel Nzimbiri, were killed when the military plane they were traveling in crashed. President Lazarus Chakwera said it's on Tuesday. The aircraft carrying Chilima, who was seen as a potential candidate in next year's presidential election, went missing on Monday. He said, "I am deeply saddened. I am sorry to inform you that all that it has turned out to be a terrible tragedy. The search and rescue team has found the aircraft near a hill. They have found it completely destroyed with no survivors." Chakwera said in an address to the nation, the plane left the capital Lilongwe at 7 17 a.m. on Monday, but was unable to land at Muzuzu Airport as scheduled at 2 minutes past 10 a.m. due to poor visibility. It was ordered to return to Lilongwe, but went off the radar, and aviation authorities could not make contact with it. Chakwera said all passengers on board were killed on impact and that the military was bringing their remains back to the capital.
This is a heartbreaking situation. I know that we are all frightened and concerned. I too am concerned. But I want to assure you that I am sparing no available resource to find that plane. And I am holding on to every fiber of hope that we will find survivors. The pilot was unable to land the plane due to poor visibility occasioned by bad weather. And aviation authorities advised the aircraft to return to Lilongwe. But the authorities soon lost contact with the aircraft. MDF soldiers are still on the ground carrying out the search, and I have given strict orders that the operation should continue until the plane is found.
All right, we stand in solidarity with the country right now. And of course, we shall give a chance to panelists as well to air their views as well. Global crude oil and oil products shipment taking the long route between Asia, the Middle East and the West is up 47% since attacks began on vessel using the shorter Red Sea route. The Energy Information Administration said this on Tuesday. The longer route around the Cape of Good Hope to avoid attacks by Yemen's Houthis has pushed up shipping costs as about 12% of world total shipping traffic historically sailed through the Red Sea and Egypt-Suez Canal. About 8.7 million barrels per day of crude and refined products took the Southern Africa route in the first 5 months of 2024 from an average of 5.9 million, that is, barrel per day in 2023, with oil products volumes making up most of the increase. EIA said this based on ship tracking data from Vortexa. Saudi Arabia and Iraq sent more crude oil to Europe around the Cape rather than through the Red Sea and Suez Canal, accounting for 15% of the total increase. Asian and Middle Eastern refiners increased their refined products export to Europe and diverted the cargoes around the Cape, representing 29% of the increased trade. The U.S. received crude oil and refined products from the Middle East and Asia and sent more products to Asia as well around the Cape Horn. Now, the United Nations General Assembly on Thursday elected Denmark, Greece, Pakistan, Panama, and Somalia to the 15-member UN Security Council for a 2 years terms starting on January the 1st, 2025. The Security Council is the only UN body that can make legally binding decisions such as imposing sanctions and authorizing use of force. It has 5 permanent veto-wielding power, or that is wielding members, I should say, Britain, China, France, Russia, and the United States. The remaining 10 members are elected with 5 new members joining every year. Denmark, Greece, Pakistan, Panama, and Somalia, who were all elected in uncontested slates, will replace Ecuador, Japan, Malta, Switzerland, and Mozambique to ensure geographical representation. Seats and or are allocated to regional groups. But even if candidates are running unopposed, their groups they still need to win the support of more than 2/3 of the General Assembly.
Congratulations, Somali citizens in everywhere in the world. Today marks an important milestone in the history of our great nation. We have received 179 votes and have been elected with an overwhelming majority of the members general of Assembly. I extend immense sincere appreciation and gratitude for the Union of African Union, OIC, and the Arab League's endorsement of Somalia candidacy, and to each and every country who has voted for us. I am deeply touched by the trust they have placed on Somalia to be elected member of the UN Security Council for the term 2025 to 2026. I take this opportunity to thank the President of Somalia, Dr. Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, and the Prime Minister, Hamza Abdi Barre, for their leadership and vision in attaining this important seat. I also thank all the civil servants who tirelessly worked on this campaign, especially our esteemed permanent representative in New York, Ambassador Abukar, and in Addis Ababa for their unwavering dedication in the last 6 years of the campaign. Our tenure will be guided by the full commitment to multilateralism and respect of the principles of international law enshrined in the UN Charter. In our engagement, we will strive to strengthen the cooperation between the Security Council and the regional organization, including the African Union. Somalia recognizes the central role of effective multilateralism and cooperation in addressing the complex issues of our world today. We are fully prepared to bring our distinct perspectives, experiences, and solutions to the global arena.
All right, well, that is happening. A violent clash over the weekend between two clans in central Somalia has killed at least 55 people and injured another 155. Residents and medical officials said this on Monday. Somalia's federal government is not only struggling to contain violence unleashed by the Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab group, but it is also facing a clan-based clashes over control of land and water in the Horn of Africa nation. The fighting between Deir and Marihan clans, which used to jointly fight Al-Shabaab years ago, erupted on Saturday in Abudwah and Herale towns in Galmudug region of grazing land and watering points, according to Faranura clan elder and residents of Herale. Government forces came late. Unfortunately, 55 people died. This includes both clans, he told the media. There is a ceasefire, but the mood is not good. A permanent ceasefire is needed. Saudi Hussein, the mother of four also, who spoke to the media, said that. On the International Criminal Court, chief prosecutor, is urgently investigating allegations of war crimes and crimes against humanity in the Darfur city of Al-Fashir, which has become a new front between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary rapid support forces. In a video statement released on Tuesday, prosecutor Karim Khan said the ICC has an active investigation into possible atrocity crimes being committed at present in Darfur. Listen in.
I want to be clear. I don't want there to be any doubt that the information being collected by my office on a daily basis from Darfur seems to disclose an organized, systematic, and a profound attack on human dignity. And I believe, based upon the information we are receiving, that we are on the precipice of something even worse. The evidence my office has collected to date seems to show credible, repeated, expanding, continuous allegations of attacks against the civilian population, in particular, attacks directed against camps for internally displaced persons. It seems to show the widespread prevalent use of rape and other forms of sexual violence. It seems to disclose consistently the shelling of civilian areas, the looting of properties, and attacks against hospitals. In support of our investigation into these crimes, we are calling in particular for any video, photographic, or audio material that those on the ground have been able to capture. We are asking civil society and all partners, all individuals, all of you watching, to provide any contacts that you have with those who may be able to provide testimony, information, or evidence to advance our investigations. It is an outrage that we are allowing history to repeat itself once again in Darfur. We cannot and we must not allow Darfur to become the world's forgotten atrocity once again.
Indeed. All right, we're going to take a short break. When we circle back, of course, we shall look at those stories. Morning with Malawi, also the atrocities